All right, let's focus on transport. For months now, there's been a string of road accidents involving trucks, particularly on KwaZulu-Natal roads. Last month alone, listen to this, about 55 collisions reported in the province. In one of those accidents, 6 family members killed after a truck crashed into their car. Senior reporter Dasen Thathiah will take us through the measures being put in place to reduce the carnage, particularly as we head towards the busy festive season. But also on public transport, Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula says several steps are being taken to deal with Prasa ghost employees. These are passenger rail workers who earn a salary but actually never physically clock in. eNCA's Heidi Giokos has been following that story. Both of them join me now. So, Dasen, let's start with you. You're in a truck, which I think is a great way to start, because that's the reality. It's not an easy job. Our roads are not in a great state, and the presence of so many trucks on our roads making it even more difficult. Just talk to me about your experiences.
Well, Sal, let me start with a few observations first. I'll tell you what's happened just now. If you look at the N3, that's where we're traveling right now. There's a truck just in front of the one that we're passing at this moment with you'll see it now, it should be coming into shot. That driver's on his cell phone, he's texting, or appears to be texting right now. And that, I guess, speaks to part of the problem, because while he was texting, he was on the fast lane and then went back here into the slow lane and has been weaving through. So it's a bit of, if you look at that and you talk about the level of carnage that we are seeing on our roads, that in itself is a problem, because the driver needs to be in control of this vehicle. It weighs are on right now. So it's a big problem. That crash with the 6 family members, that happened last week, Friday. A truck collided with a vehicle, a light motor vehicle that family was traveling in. And it seems that the number of accidents is certainly increasing. Well, at least that's what authorities are telling us. It also coincides with the numbers of trucks on the roads that's increasing. I can tell you just from the trip from Pietermaritzburg to where we are now, we're heading in the direction of Escort. One of the good things is that I also noticed that there were traffic officers present. We saw about 2 instances where trucks were being checked. So I guess that helps. But it seems like the measures that are being taken by government and law enforcement is not happening fast enough, because
All right, so Dasen, we've lost you. I'm wondering if we should just play that clip that Dasen had lined up, which just gives us a sense of some of the experiences on the road. Let's take a quick listen.
I just wish there can be changes. I really hope that this will obviously help more families, that they don't have to go through what I went through and all the other families. I pray for strength for everybody, that they can get through this, and I just hope there's change. I really, really hope that they don't just listen to it and say things. I really hope the government acts on what they're going to say and what they're going to do.
All right, so Dasen, we lost you just for a moment there. Just put that bite that we've just played in context and just briefly tell us a little bit more about the role of the driver here.
Okay, so, well, forgive me, the signal is a bit patchy on the N3, so that's part of the problem. So the woman that just spoke now, that's Tia. She very sadly lost her husband, her father, her cousin, and a friend in a crash in Pongola on June 30th. And they were traveling, they were going out to a hunting trip, and just about 10 minutes before they got to where they were going, their vehicles, both the vehicles, 2 bakkies, was hit by a truck that seemed to have been overtaking another truck. So she says that every time she hears about yet another crash on these roads, I mean, sometimes if you look at the N3, I mean, there are more trucks than cars that are at certain points. So she's saying she wants there to be something done. And it all comes down really to the driver, because ultimately that is the person that is in control of the vehicle at that point. So yes, legislation is important. Yes, the companies have a role, but there's one person in charge of that vehicle at that moment. I'm in the company of Ismail Khan now. He's a driver that's been driving for more than 30 years, and he's with Bakers SA Limited. He's been kind enough to take us along. And this truck that he's driving now has a ton of safety features. It's the new technology, but ultimately, you know, you need to know the basics. And I was talking to Ismail. I'll just bring him into the conversation now. Ismail, talk to me about some of the characteristics. What is needed to be in control of such a big machine?
Yeah, I think on that one, it's a fully fledged training. That's what we do in our academy at Bakers SA Limited. The drivers run through a 3-week training program where we actually do a lot of defensive driver training for the guys. We run vehicle familiarization. We make them understand all the features on the vehicle. We do defensive driving. I think that will help. My suggestion, maybe we could look at maybe compulsory training for every driver on the road. I think will reduce the carnage definitely on the roads.
Ismail, briefly, how do you feel when you hear about these unscrupulous operators, for example, that are driving and people are telling us horror stories of what it's like, and then you see the number of accidents? You as a fellow driver, what do you feel?
It's quite sad actually, because if it then talks to every driver on the road. So, but if you look at our company, we're running at Bakers, we have all professional drivers. They're fully trained. They understand the road, the rules of the road.
Sure.
They know when there's a risk, how to avoid the risk. Sure. So I think training for me is first prize.
Sure.
First prize.
Thank you so much, Ismail. Sel, I hope we have an opportunity just to get a view from Sfiso Nyati. He's with the ATDF, but also a truck driver. And he was saying that one simple thing needs to change to stop this carnage. Let's listen to his bite as part of an interview we did last week.
The cause of an accident in South Africa is because a truck are running 24 hours in the national road. That's a cause for accident. Number 2 is a push from truck owners. The truck owners are giving a pressure for drivers. They're paying drivers according incentive system, the kilometer and the load, so and the target. So they tell drivers you must do so much load per month, you must push this so target. That's why you find the drivers are driving sometimes non-stop. Sometimes they don't have enough time to rest because of push. Month end, if you can't do so much load, if you say come and do so 15 load, if you've never done that 15 load per month or 10 load, you come to the office, you see HR, sometimes they deduct your money. They call it a penalty.
Raises such a crucial issue that actually the people who employ the truck drivers need to take the pressure off them because they feel under pressure to drive all night. Such an important issue. Thank you so much. From the N3 on the go, Dasen, Thathiah, I want to bring in Heidi Giokos now. And Heidi, you're looking at what's been happening in the passenger rail agency. Fikile Mbalula giving an update on these ghost employees. I'm trying to work out, what are they? Do they exist? Are they there in name only? I mean, just tell me all about it.
They don't exist, Sally,
okay.
And I think this is what is so shocking and so alarming, even for the Minister of Transport, Fikile Mbalula. They embarked on really cleaning up Prasa a couple of months ago when they realized that the board was fighting amongst each other, the CEO was not functioning, management was basically non-existent. And they came up with a project, Reveal Yourself, when they realized that there were people working at Prasa that basically did not exist, were on the payroll, 3,000 ghost employees. So out of 17,000 employees in total, 14,000 came back and said, yes, we do, had the verification process accepted and verified, but 3,000 were unable to be traced. And immediately when this project was launched, 1,000 resigned, vanished, whatever you want to call it. And this is when they realized either these people were undocumented, so they were brought in with no proper documentation, South African legal documents to be employed in this country. They did not have the proper qualifications to be employed at Prasa, or they were just non-existent. Or they had criminal records. There is zero information as to.
And they weren't doing any work.
No, they were not doing any work. They weren't even clocking into the building. The minister even went as far as saying some people were employed at Prasa on Prasa's payroll, not paying tax, not paying UIF, and in Zimbabwe. So a big concern, and the minister saying they've managed to get this under control, and there's a forensic investigation, rather, that's currently underway to establish the depth of this and to really figure out Who started this and what kind of scam was actually going on? Let's listen to the Minister on that.
Failure by 3,000 employees to come forward for physical verifications led to suspicions that there could be a number of ghost employees at Prasa. A cleanup exercise by the Prasa board then ensued to establish whether these were indeed ghost employees as part of their effort to tighten internal controls. Services of an independent service provider were commissioned to establish if these were indeed ghost employees and to identify weaknesses in the Prasa system, as well as identifying culpable officials who may have colluded with unscrupulous people to create ghost employees where this was found to be the case. The investigation was concluded with the support of Home Affairs, the South African Revenue Services, SARS, Umalusi, and the South African Qualifications Authority.
I mean, it's great news that they've identified 3,000 employees who actually just don't have any legitimate reason to be claiming a salary. How much money are they saving? What's the next step?
So 200 million rand has been saved. They have managed to reduce the Prasa wage bill by 200 million rand after the 3,000 ghost employees were identified. I don't know if the word is identified. And
exercise is probably the correct term.
And they're continuing with their investigations. They've brought the SIU in. They will also be bringing in the MPA as investigations are still underway. And I think there's a huge tax implication here, Sally, because if a salary was being pulled, was tax being paid? And it seems as though that was not the case. But the Minister says they are investigating and investigations continue. They'll also be announcing a new CEO quite soon. So it seems as though they are trying to sort it out. And I think at the end of the day, it's got to do with making sure that Prasa is functional so that they provide that rail service for thousands that depend on us, especially here in Gauteng.
Yeah, absolutely crucial, Heidi. It is good news to see some progress being made, getting rid of those ghost workers. Thank you so much. Heidi Giokos and, of course, our reporter, Dasen, Thathiah.